So for the sake of clarity, this is one of those moments that I don't think I have to be the guy who leads in. But if you're going to sit there and say nothing in the face of Candace Owens being insane or anybody else, maybe when the left did this stuff, we'd be saying the same exact thing. So let us do it. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz Today. Let's begin. Candace Owens is a conspiracy theorist, and if that upsets you, well, it was nice knowing you. I'm okay with losing fans. I'm okay with losing sponsors. But dear Lord, I'm not okay with allowing this to continue and us being silent about it. Nobody necessarily said, hey, Tony, you have to have an opinion on Candace Owens. But we all have opinions on so many things. And when Candace Owens is now creating a problem that's going to lead to the possibility, not only just Candace Owens, but crazily enough, millions of people who listen to her, where we're going to have an effect on the election, hell yeah, I'm going to say something every rational person should. And what I have to say is, bye, Felicia. I'm going to grab myself a cigar, and I'm going to speak honestly, and some will agree and some will disagree. And that's going to happen. That's bound to happen. But let's start with the basics. This is all nuts. She is absolutely obsessed with the late Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated in September. And she absolutely is, based on my interpretation of her words, which I think is pretty clear, is saying that Erica Kirk and Turning Point USA was involved in it. It's nutty. It's as nutty as Tucker Carlson saying, I'm going to buy a house in Qatar. And by the way, I'm an American, and that means I can do whatever I want. Tucker, nobody said otherwise, but buying a house in Qatar where they house terrorists is super weird. You're weird, not us. Tony Katz Today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. We are not discussing whether or not people should be deplatformed. Let's start there. Candace Owens can have her platform, and Tucker Carlson can have his platform. And if you're going to make the claim of you're going to go about lawsuits because you think that these people are engaged in defamation, go right ahead. I don't get to make that lawsuit. I don't get to engage that lawsuit. What I can say is, this is what happens when we engage in this idea of idol worship and not in rationality. Nobody is perfect. No one is right 100% of the time. Stop it. But if you were to talk to the Candace Owens people, everything she said, she's just asking questions. No, she's not. No, she's not. That's not a thing. That's garbage. Who killed Charlie Kirk? Well, we've got a guy in custody who killed Charlie Kirk. We have admissions about this. Oh, no, that's not the guy. You've got the real guy? And OJ was on the hunt for the real killer, too. What's more practical? That a guy was actually caught? Because it's kind of hard to kill somebody in broad daylight and not be found? Or that Candace Owens has the secret insight that nobody else has? And you can replace the name Candace Owens with quite literally anybody else who wants to make that claim. But to the claim itself that there was a conspiracy afoot to kill Charlie Kirk. Now, you understand, I didn't know Charlie. I wasn't friends with Charlie. I had done one Turning Point event in my life. We followed each other on social media. I didn't want him dead. I really did not appreciate enough the level of build that he had made on the university side. I wasn't the biggest fan of his debate style. What does any of that matter? Impressive stuff, and more people are interested in what Turning Point has to offer every single day. It's impressive. It's impressive. He didn't deserve to die. And there are people on the left who flat out believe that he did deserve to die, who call him to this day a racist and a bigot and a this and a that. They're disgusting people. And I happily, just like you, call them out for the same type of vileness. Does Candace Owens have an argument because I'm just asking questions? No. Candace Owens seems to be very good at getting people to click, and therefore engaging in dollars or engaging in attention. And I am one of those people who spent the vast majority of my time not paying any attention because the example, the theory that I live by is you don't reward crazy. You don't reward cuckoo. You don't reward what is clearly on its face ridiculous. I didn't say deplatformer. I have never said that. I'm not saying that now. I am saying that if everything you have talked about for the past days, weeks, months, the vast majority we'll call it, is about Charlie Kirk, that's obsession. And if your argument is, well, you know, they killed Charlie Kirk, which is what you said, Candace. I mean, it's what you said. That's messed up. And that is supposed to be responded to. Now, you could respond like Tim Pool responded on his show. I do radio. I don't get to use that language. I'll respond the way a lot of other people, I think, will as well. We're done here. If you want to spend your time following Candace Owens, you're more than welcome to. This is where we part ways. It's okay. Well, no, it's not okay. Because no one believes the con more than the mark. And if you're still following Candace Owens, well, then there you go. She's just asking questions. Why are you opposed to questions? They're not questions. It's insinuating bullcrap, saying to the widow of Charlie Kirk, you did this. There are things that I believe and things that I don't believe. Do I believe that Ilhan Omar really married her brother so she could stay in the country or so he could stay in the country? Yes. And I want an investigation to prove it because I believe it doesn't make it true. What Candace and her supporters seem to want to believe is that because they believe it, therefore it is. And even with no proof, if I can insinuate it, that's good enough. Click, ching, cash, good. It's not. Tucker Carlson can go to Doha and participate in events, and he can sit there and say, I'm going to buy a house in Qatar. I cannot stop the man from doing so. I'm not trying to stop the man from doing so. Can I notice that that's gross? Sure. Can I notice that you're siding with a group of people, a nation that has absolutely been a supporter of terrorism? That conversation, those connection points, my gosh, they house Hamas. What else do you want? I shouldn't notice that that's where you go for your relaxation. I mean, most people just go to Pigeon Forge. I mean, the craziness of this. I didn't say you couldn't buy the house. I'm allowed to notice that that's enough for me. We don't need to talk about it anymore. You clearly have an agenda, and that agenda is not, in my view, any level of pro-American agenda, not in the slightest. Your response is, I'm an American, I can do what I want. It's great, you're an American, you can do what you want. I didn't say you weren't an American. But like a lot of Americans out there, that's pretty screwed up. You're weird, man. You're weird. It's a strange thing to do to say, I'm going to get a place in Qatar. Are these people in their sole objective, Tucker, Candace, are they trying to divide the political right? Is this about trying to tear down what is what some people would call this MAGA coalition? I don't know. I can't answer that question. I think, where most people start, which is the very idea of the dollars. Does Nick Fuentes actually believe what he says? I have no clue what that freak believes or doesn't believe. There's a whole bunch going on about this guy, the white supremacist, the anti-Semite, the woman hater. He was on with Piers Morgan, admits that he's a virgin. Whatever. I don't actually care about. I don't care about him. I don't care about that. And then someone was showing some testimony he gave, I guess in front of Congress, where asked about his employment, he pled the fifth. Like he didn't answer where he was employed, and that's why Elon Musk is saying things like he's a Fed. We live in this world. I don't know if he's a Fed. But do I think that there's good money in what he does? Well, there's got to be something in what he does. I mean, that's clear. There's some value in it for him. There's some value in it for Tucker. There's some value in it for Candace. My question is, what is the value for us? And I believe that value is zero. There's a value in Tucker Carlson's anti-Israel approach when he's pro-Qatar? No. If you don't believe in the alliances, if you don't believe in the what you call it, the aid, well, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But you'll cozy up to Qatar, which harbors Hamas? Sorry, that becomes an unserious conversation. There's something in it for you that's not in it for the rest of us. I have got people in my chat room right now as we live stream there on YouTube, youtube.com/Tony Katz, saying, hey, it's like nobody wants to know what happened to Charlie. Candace is this and she's doing this right. No, she's not. She's putting things out into the ether and utilizing a platform to kind of codify it, to give it not just relevance, but give it legitimacy. And that's not how these things work. And while she's doing that, she's disparaging Erica Kirk and this entire organization. Charlie Kirk was going to divorce her? As I said, I didn't know Charlie Kirk. I would have absolutely no idea if this was true or not true. I would ask the following question. Do you believe that Charlie Kirk was a man of God? Do you believe that Charlie Kirk was just talking about religion or he lived it every day? It moved him to his soul. It wasn't just something that some fly-by-night preacher might do in order to sell snake oil. It was to his core. Based on every conversation and every friend, it was to his core. Does that sound like a guy who gets divorced? But it just gets put out there like somehow we're supposed to just say it. Like it's just all standard. It's not. It's despicable, it's wrong, and it's low, and it is clearly meant to be an attack for the purpose, I would assume, of either self-gratification for her or financial opportunity. The resultant leads to an absolute dismantling or possible dismantling of the political right. And this is where I think Tim is making an interesting argument. Tim Pool, I don't know Tim either. I don't know if I would agree with everything Tim Pool is saying, but it's a very interesting argument about what is happening regarding the destruction of the political right. Never. Should we discount that if you can dismantle X, maybe you can rebuild even greater for you? Why should Trump be the guy of MAGA? Why should this one? Why should that one? Here's my opportunity to take this mantle, to grab this. Which goes back to my point. It's about the money. I know I do radio, and I know I've got the video stuff. I have never once considered myself an influencer. I think I'm a radio host. Which is weird because so much of radio is moving to digital, and so many radio people are like, yeah, we're just in the digital business now. It's a fundamentally different beast. And I really wish that we would damn well treat it as such. And these radio groups that are so willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater is just madness. Guys, radio guys, you program directors, you radio station owners, you syndication owners, it's stupid. Well, Tony, that's where the money's going. It's a fundamentally different beast. I didn't say you couldn't do two things. I live stream the show on YouTube and other places. It's on X at Tony Katz, but it is a radio program, and it has a different methodology to it. If only that you can't just go about screaming and yelling, cursing, hooting and hollering, and somehow think that that makes some level of intellectual heft. You actually have to make your argument here. More so than people do online, even though some people do online. Maybe I'm just old school and I like analog. What's the purpose of breaking up a coalition of people agreed on a few subjects that matter? What's the value there? Well, the value is you don't actually care about the future of the thing, let's call it the country, and you only care about the future of you and your financial opportunity. Because that's what it looks like. Whether it's Candace or whether it's Tucker, this is what it looks like. Fuentes, that's what it looks like. And so I think we have to ask ourselves, what do we want? Us or them? And I choose us. And they got to go. They got to go. They're unserious. The accusations are garbage. The cozying up to Qatar is garbage. The holy cow, this freak bigot Fuentes, why is anybody putting him on a show? Because it's good ratings? Be better at what you do. And by the way, I am totally old school, but I'm fully aware I need to have an even larger digital presence. I'm working on it every day. I hear you. I get you. So, you want to be a supporter of Candace Owens, you're more than welcome to. I can't stop you, but I'm not interested in pretending that we have anything that connects us. She's a conspiracy spewing person. That's all she does. This is not about anything of value. This is about her, and no one believes the con more than the mark. And for one, I like this shakeout. You'll never see this on the left. They're okay with all their crazies. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back. Hey, Tony Katz Today. Good to be with you. Listen, I knew what I was saying. I'm aware of what I'm saying. I'm fully aware that I'm going to take heat for it. Don't care. And if I lose sponsors and if I lose it all, this is it. And I'm not going to. I'm aware of that. But holy cow, sit idly by and just let the nonsense happen and people getting ripped apart and no pushback? That's nuts. That is nuts. I don't know, Tim. I would absolutely go on his show, Larry. Good to see you, man, by the way. Larry's old school. Larry's been here since day one. Larry is old school for sure. I didn't mean to call you that old, Larry. I apologize. It's just madness. Hold on. Like, this is one of the military on the ground in Utah. Statements people have lied about Charlie. I think he meant Kirk's assassination. Something's way off. It's like no one wants to know. It's crazy. None of that is true. Meaning the idea that people don't want to know, of course they want to know. I didn't say you couldn't investigate anything you want to investigate. But screaming that Turning Point had something to do with it is nuts. It's just screaming. And it's gross. We should say something's gross when it's gross. Not apologizing for it. Not at all. Ready there, Landon. Coming back. So Colin Allred is not running for Senate in Texas. I mean, he lost to Ted Cruz, and now he's going to run against John Cornyn. And instead, Jasmine Crockett is going to run. Okay. Let her. And let the rest of us laugh out loud. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. The ever popular Jasmine Crockett has said she'll win and she doesn't need Trump supporters at all.
How you make voters who previously voted for Trump, particularly given that you have been an outspoken critic and he has inserted himself, just take your campaign video as is. He has inserted himself at every turn when it comes to your commentary. How will you convert those who are supportive of him to voters for you?
Yeah, I don't know that we'll necessarily convert all of Trump supporters. That's not our goal.
Do you need to?
Our goal is to definitely talk to people. No, we don't. We don't need to. Our goal is to make sure that we can engage people.
Are you trying to get every vote or not? Because now what Jasmine Crockett is saying is, no, we don't need every vote. It was Katie Porter who said this. Remember California, where there's a poll. She's actually in the lead of Democrats, which is only means that people haven't heard her talk yet. That's the only reason Katie Porter is in any way, shape, or form popular. And yes, I'm fully aware that I did not play because I wasn't doing Jasmine Crockett Masterpiece Theater. Usually, I have a very serious bit of mocking when I talk about Jasmine Crockett, but I wasn't doing the whole thing, so that's why I didn't play the music. Okay, let me produce the show. Okay, thank you. I think there's something very interesting here that does require a quick bit of attention. Colin Allred dropping out to run in the 3rd district in a redistricted Texas. So Jasmine Crockett, whose district would be eliminated because the redistricting maps were approved by the Supreme Court, running for Senate. We're going to find out so much from this, including whether or not the Democrat Party is really behind this. Watch the dollars in this race. I'm Tony Katz. Watch the dollars. That's the everything here. Will the people, meaning the Democratic Party, put real money behind this? Will they put real attention behind this? I don't know. Now, does that mean she won't raise money? Oh, no. She'll raise money. So we're clear. That's going to happen. But is the DNC, are they interested in cutting her checks? Do they think there's going to be a reward there? Do they think there's going to be a pickup statewide? Now, listen, there are other people running in the Republican primary, and Cornyn is certainly weak, and a bunch of things. So we don't know what we have until we know what we have. But if she wants to make this a race on Trump, she can. But if I'm in Texas, I make this a race about the border and the costs. I make this a race about everything that she has voted against and why those things would have been better for Texans. I am talking about the border constantly and how she never once favored having any strength and support of ranchers and those murdered at the border. That'd be me. Hold on a second. Should the DOJ look into the passing of Antonin Scalia, the Supreme Court justice? First time anybody's ever said anything to me like that. Why would that be? Why in the world would that be? I don't see the need. Maybe you know something I don't. Maybe there's a story out there that I don't have. Oh, Justice Thomas going to town. Wait, what was Mark Elias talking about? Hold on a second. This could get interesting. So this is, campaign finance laws. All right. So Supreme Court hearing oral arguments, the National Republican Senatorial Committee versus the Federal Election Commission. So this is about campaign spending with candidates. So this is interesting. And anytime you don't really hear much of Clarence Thomas, he doesn't really after Scalia passed, he then started asking questions. But while Scalia was there, very, very rare that Justice Thomas would ever ask a question. He just didn't do it. And it was always interesting that he didn't do it. He has done more so now. And the person asking way too many questions is Ketanji Brown Jackson, which is just, I'm telling you, they want her out. She's an embarrassment. Right? Well, Tony, she's a Supreme Court justice. She knows more about the law than you. With all due respect, that's not enough of a qualification to be on the Supreme Court. Hit me, producer Landon. Are we up? Oh, okay, I thought you were saying we were up. I thought we were good. By the way, Bullet, Bulliet, or is it EIT, has never been my brand for bourbon. I just did pick up another bottle. It was something I haven't tried yet, and I'm always willing to try. I don't know, Bullet just never moved me, but it's a classic. It's a standard in a lot of liquor cabinets, and I can appreciate that. It's just never been for. I would much rather have Jack. I would much rather have Maker's Mark. I'd much rather have some other things. As Old Granddad 114, I think is a must in every liquor cabinet everywhere. Old Granddad 114 is an absolute must. Let's go, Landon. So I just caught this from the Supreme Court oral arguments, right? A bunch of things being discussed here. This is about limits on coordinated campaign spending. I know what you're saying. Tony, that's a barn burner. It is. Tony Katz today. Because if you have limits on coordinated campaign spends, that changes elections. It absolutely changes elections. So this is the Republicans suing because they're discussing the FEC and limits on these spends with candidates. So what makes this interesting is that it's Clarence Thomas asking the questions. Now, I have a whole thing to get to regarding Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson yesterday. It is embarrassing. It's just embarrassing who she is, how she engages. And I had some people commenting on social media, she knows more about the law than you. And that in and of itself is not the bar to being a Supreme Court justice. It's knowing more about the law than me. There are some people who know more organic chemistry than me. It doesn't mean they should be doctors. Talk about a ridiculous, pathetic argument. I'll make the argument that she shouldn't be a Supreme Court justice utilizing her own words. And I've got that coming up. But this is Mark Elias who's being asked the questions by Justice Clarence Thomas. If you know anything about Justice Thomas, he doesn't ask many questions. He never has. He really didn't ask anything on his time on the court during these open arguments while Antonin Scalia was alive. After Justice Scalia passed, then he started asking more questions. Elias is now the lawyer here. Elias is the guy who worked at Perkins Coie, COIE, Hillary Clinton presidential campaign, John Kerry presidential campaign. Oh, he's connected to a lot, including the hiring of Fusion GPS. That's right, the Steele dossier. That's who Mark Elias is. So this is Clarence Thomas asking the questions of Mark Elias.
Just so I'm clear, is there any First Amendment interest in coordinated expenditures?
Your Honor, I think that there is an interest, a First Amendment interest in coordinated expenditures in two regards. Number one, there is an interest anytime any entity or person wishes to make a contribution to a political committee, they are expressing First Amendment speech. They are engaged in First Amendment speech. Buckley said that is satisfied by allowing them to contribute. So essentially, the speech is in the first dollar. It is in showing support for that candidate, and that's why the contribution limits could be $3,500, because the idea to contribution limit candidates, because though the donor is engaged in First Amendment activity, engaged in First Amendment speech, it is essentially symbolic speech. It's the act of giving money. So that's number one. Number two, I think this case would be a very different one if the as-applied challenge, first of all, if it was an as-applied challenge, but second, if it was an as-applied challenge where what the party wanted was its own speech and it wanted to coordinate that speech with the candidate.
I think that people can give to candidates. And if we want to argue that the giving to the candidate is a free speech issue, I think that is fine. Now, the question of coordination is something that could be seen as different. Are we talking about the idea of saying the thing I want said or the support of the thing that's already being said? I think that there's a little bit of this, but let's continue.
That would pose a very different case. And there would be different considerations on how that could be limited, which is why in 1996, the brief of the Democratic Party went to what the scope of coordination was, that there should be less of a sweep of what is considered coordinated. But if you're saying, is there First Amendment speech with respect to paying the bills of a campaign so that the campaign staff stayed at a hotel, it is just in the act of making the donation. It's just in the act of making the in-kind contribution.
I still don't understand what you're saying. If the party coordinates with the candidate and pays the bill, is that speech, or does that have a First Amendment protection, or is it simply, as you say, a bill-paying exercise?
It is speech. It is speech, and under Buckley, what it is treated as is a contribution, and therefore, though it is speech, it is subject to limit by Congress on how much can be spent in engaging in that speech.
You realize how technical we're getting here. But it's hugely important to all of us. What is important here is that whether or not we get to contribute, whether or not we have a say, who has the say in the support of candidates. I think that this is one of the few places in America right now that we could, Republican and Democrat, conservative and liberal, get some agreement to on the idea of whether we want our candidates to be able to take certain dollars in certain aspects in certain places. I think that we can get Americans to agree on that and free breadsticks, right? These are the two things. We agree on who can give money to candidates and free breadsticks. Now, of course, you can't get people to agree on money. And those keto people are going to say no to the breadsticks. And I say to hell with them. I'm not anti-keto, but don't tell me I can't have myself a breadstick. They're delicious, don't you know? I think if not, I don't think I've ever engaged really in the conversation of the giving of dollars. The one place that I would assume we could all agree is that zero foreign money can ever be given. And if any foreign money is accepted, the fine has to be huge. And on the second offense, you're off the ballot. We have to be people who completely safeguard against anybody from any other nation giving money to our candidates on any level. That would seem to me to be such an easy thing to do, but it doesn't happen. It's the same thing. Did you hear Tim Burchett? He's the congressman from Tennessee, and he was talking about his legislation that he's got with a couple other people about putting an end to insider trading in Congress. And he's like, it isn't going to happen. It absolutely isn't going to happen. And it was a really interesting conversation because he's on screen, he's on camera with Moskowitz, a Democratic congressman. And did you not hear? Did I not play this for you? Here, this is like the end of it. Here, check this out.
Do you think he's right? You think it's not going to happen?
I think Tim's right. The idea of us getting this past the House, the Senate, and to the president. Now, I will agree with Tim that it's not going to happen, but I'll agree for a broader reason, which he said, which is we just don't pass anything. So this is just another thing that gets cogged in the wheel, right? That we are no longer the greatest legislative body in America. I mean, we're a wonderful communications body. Yeah. Right?
I don't even know about that at the moment, but
hey, I don't know.
Well. Tim does, I think, pretty well on communications. I mean, he's not holding back how he feels.
Well, that's true. I don't, but. The bill will go to, if it passes, ma'am, it'll be some glowing piece of legislation. Go to the Senate, and guess what? They'll amend it to something else, something a little bigger, a little better that we cannot agree on, and then it will die. And both sides, the House will say, those old 100-year-old guys over in the Senate aren't doing anything. Then they'll say, those young punks in the House aren't doing anything. Because it's a game. It's a game, and we got to wake up.
Well, listen.
Like, how do you not agree with that? I don't think there's such a thing as the uniparty. I'm one of the people who's like, that is just ridiculous. There is a fundamental difference in the parties if I only discuss the idea of whether or not you think a boy could be a girl and therefore go through some level of surgical or chemical mutilation. There's a difference between the parties. But how true is this? They can insider trade on information they get that if you and I got, we would go to jail. And here's this legislation that Burchett has got. He's got that going with Pramila Jayapal of the Progressive Caucus. And they know they can't get it through. So the money thing is one of the things I think we can agree on. Why don't we see more pressure on that? What? If the argument is, well, it's going to keep us from making our millions of dollars while we're in Congress, okay, well, we're not interested in your millions of dollars. We're interested in our dollars. That's the whole point. And maybe your lifelong career shouldn't be in Congress. It's Evan Sayet, the humorist, who says, Congress is the only place you get elected to when you're 25 and you leave when you die. That's the problem. That's the issue. So I would think that we could agree on this. And that's what makes this case in front of the Supreme Court and everyone like it, if not just the specifics of this case, all these cases talking about campaign finance laws. This stuff matters. This isn't in the ether. It affects us, who runs, how we live, and how they're trying to engage some profit on our time and on our dime. I want us to be able to profit on our time and on our dime. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. So that's producer Landon in my ear. We're talking about the Indianapolis Colts and how Daniel Jones went down on Sunday with an Achilles injury, and he's having surgery, and his season's over. But a guy who went through that much turmoil with the Giants to then end up in Minnesota, to end up here and to have the season he's been having, to get injured and then injure his other leg. It's horrifying. I feel for that guy in ways I cannot comprehend. And so there's a big thing going on around right now about who the Colts are going to have as a quarterback, because the backup, a guy by the name of Riley Leonard, he's a rookie out of Notre Dame. He's got a knee injury. So they brought in Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers used to play with the San Diego Chargers and then played with the Colts. And he's 44. He's 44. He's a grandfather. He teaches high school football, I think it is. And they brought him in and they tested him out. And now we're talking about some other people that they might bring in. And I'm here to tell you, no one should think at this moment that Colin Kaepernick is off the table. I don't care. No one should think that that is, I'm telling you, producer Landon, that's an option. They are at the absolute end of the line. There are no quarterbacks. They don't exist. So it might be him. It might be Phillip Rivers. You could see them look at Kaepernick. Landon brought up the idea that they might look at Ryan Tannehill, which I didn't even know he was available. And I'd be interested there. I'd be absolutely interested in Ryan Tannehill. For sure. And then there's this. You want to talk about the effect that Barry Weiss is having? This is fantastic news. I'll get into that in a second as we come back to the show. So as for Andrew Luck, I did I put out a post to Captain Andrew Luck on Twitter, who writes, it's making fun of the former quarterback of the Colts, Andrew Luck, with his beard and the neck beard and his deep, deep voice. And he sounds like the Jolly Green Giant. He lives under a bridge and collects toll money. And it's always about how he's like really a captain in the Civil War in 1864. And he's always writing to Mother about how things are going with the troops. So I wrote him a tweet in that voice about coming back and playing for us. I thought I did a pretty good job with it, Landon. So anyway, coming back to it. The Barry Weiss effect over at CBS. Catch this. Tony Dokapol will now be the anchor of CBS Evening News. Ta-Nehisi Coates. Hurt worst. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Glad you guys are here. Tony Dokapol is an interesting cat. He does the morning show there on CBS. He's with Gayle King and Nate Burleson. And you probably know him from being sat down and taken off the show for a little bit because he was interviewing pseudo-intellectual, in my view, Ta-Nehisi Coates. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. I've heard it pronounced a couple different ways. And he's a guy who decided he was going to write a book about Israel and the Palestinians. I went to Israel for a week, and I've determined that they are guilty. And Dokapol, who is Jewish, pushed back against him, was asking him tough questions. Well, CBS went nuts. You were so rude to our guest, and how dare you? And they took him off. I think took him off the air for a little bit. It was crazy. Enter Barry Weiss, now taking over all of CBS News, and now Dokapol, he is going to be the anchor there. Wow. That's, first of all, how Christopher Walken was that? Secondly, things change. And someone's going to say, well, is Barry Weiss Jewish? I don't know, by the way. Is Barry Weiss Jewish? I think so. I think she is. And then they're going to say, you see, that's exactly the connection. And see how they're connected. And she's just doing this because, listen, if that's going to move people, honestly, tune into the next episode of Candace and hear all about it. Yes, I did the checking myself, Producer Landon. Thank you. I didn't need to check anything else. I just immediately went to my, I have an app on my phone called Jew Finder, which is weird because Nick Fuentes has the same app, but we use it for different purposes. And I looked and boom, there she was. I think it's interesting. I for a second there, I wasn't 100% sure because I've never seen her at the meetings that we have where we decide who's going to control the banks this week. Do me a favor and send all of your hate mails to Buck at yahoo.com of Clay and Buck. I'm sure he'll take a good look at that right there. This is a move that signals to CBS that it isn't business as usual. I'm not saying that Dokapol is some kind of conservative. I have no idea. And the less I know about his politics, the better if I'm getting actual news. Also, is being the evening news guy still the deal it used to be? News is 24/7 and it's on your phone. Does being on the news there, does it matter? Being that guy? I got to assume for at least the contract, yes. But the message it sends to CBS? Huge. Huge. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. I do not have the Fakakta detector there on my phone. I don't have it. Hold on. Why do I have to shut my mouth? Wait, are you being funny? What's going on there? What's happening here? Because shutting my mouth really goes against what I do. I talk like this. Guys, here's where we're at, right? We've got the radio break. So we've got the video break. Hang loose, smoke them if you got them. I'm going to get into the insanity of Ketanji Brown Jackson. I have got that for you. Trump's statements about Nicolas Maduro as well. Hold on. This just in. Now I can actually put a face to all the stupidity that be coming out of your mouth. Here, let me help you. Better? You got that? Good. Now kiss off. What? Wait, I'm supposed to honor that somehow? Stop it. It's ridiculous. We are in the break right now. If you missed anything, including my commentary about Candace Owens, the podcast will be available. I'll also put it out there for everybody on the YouTubes. Just search for Tony Katz Today, wherever it is you get your podcasts, and boom, there it will be. And don't forget, Trump 1 year later, a red tie gala, January 24th. Get your tickets right now. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Tickets.tonykatz.com. The bourbon, the food, the laughs, the live music, and me. We're going to take everybody through the first year of the Trump administration, the highs, the lows, the interesting things, and what is going to be setting up the opportunities for the midterms. Is it more than just the economy? I will have that answer. Downtown Indianapolis, January 24th, red tie, like black tie, but fancier. Bring the red tie, wear it. I would suggest, and come join us. Trump 1 year later, a red tie gala, January 24th. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Cannot wait to be there with you. Hang loose. We'll be back to the show in a few minutes. Keep it right here, everybody. There we go. Be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. This is the Timeless, by the way, what I'm smoking right here. Come on. That is from the good people at Ferio Tego. The Timeless was originally a brand of Nat Sherman. And then Nat Sherman sold, and they really took the cigarette part of Nat Sherman and really had nothing to do with and no interest in the cigar part. So Michael Herklotz, who is of Nat Sherman lore and legend, said, I'm starting a brand. I would like to have the Timeless brand, and bought the brand and then brought the cigar back. So that's what I am smoking. That's a little bit of your cigar knowledge for the day. So Ketanji Brown Jackson continues to embarrass herself. It's just simply that. I'm going to get into that. But first, to the comments. I have someone very angry with me because somehow the Bible doesn't speak of anti-Semites, so therefore there are no anti-Semites, and that this person here, this new commenter, is going to keep it simple, that anti-Semite does not appear in the Bible. You cannot define it because you made it up. You mean your people. Wait, does you mean I mean, or you mean your? Listen, just for the record, I get it. You don't like me. Okay. I'm still going to do the show. And I'm going to do the show tomorrow. And then I've got a couple days of vacation. But then I'll be back to doing the show. Well, the point is, you have zero play and zero decision-making on how I do this. You need to know that. But thanks for the comments. Oh, and for the views. Right? Love that. So I don't know what's bigger news. That Ketanji Brown Jackson, the Supreme Court justice, continues to embarrass herself, or that the Indianapolis Colts signed Phillip Rivers. That officially happened, Producer Carl? I'm sorry, Producer Landon? They did it. It's the crazy. Phillip Rivers is 44 years old. That's like 196 in quarterback years. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Just for the sake of clarity, just so you know what's going on here in the NFL. The quarterback that the Colts have, is the name of Daniel Jones, got injured. Now, Daniel Jones had an issue with his fibula. It was a hairline fracture. And he was still playing. But I think that issue was bigger than we were told. And then in the game this past weekend against the Jacksonville Jaguars, he goes down, he tears his Achilles in his other leg. Now, if you know anything about Indianapolis sports at all, you had a Caitlin Clark of the Fever go down with a leg injury, not return. It was actually a groin injury. Then you had Tyrese Halliburton in the finals against the Oklahoma City Thunder go down with an Achilles. Sauce Gardner, who the Colts traded 2 first-round picks for, he plays on defense. Third game, boom, Achilles. It was the Achilles, right? An injury, Achilles injury. And now Daniel Jones. So Daniel Jones, who was making a miraculous comeback in his career, out for the rest of the season. I feel awful for the dude. I've never met him. I feel awful for the dude. That brings in the backup, Riley Leonard, who is a rookie out of Notre Dame, and he's got a knee injury. The Colts don't have anybody else. I know it was bad because last night the Irsay family, which owns the Colts, called me. And I said, listen, I am very, very willing to do it. I don't think you can match my price. And they were like, you're probably right. And that ended the whole conversation. So they went to Phillip Rivers, formerly of the San Diego Chargers, when it was San Diego. And now, and then played with the Indianapolis Colts. He's 44. He's been retired for like 4 years. He's a grandfather. One of the crazy stats is a rookie on the team who's making a huge impact is a tight end by the name of Tyler Warren. Phillip Rivers has a kid older than Tyler Warren. That's a true story right there. True story. And since they don't have a quarterback, they don't have a quarterback that they can rely on, and they don't have a backup because the third stringer is a guy by the name of Brett Rippon, who's a longtime veteran, journeyman. They signed him. And it gets interesting because it's like, well, who are they going to sign? And I was saying that we should be clear that Colin Kaepernick, I think, is somebody they must have considered. They didn't do it, obviously. And there could be other people that get signed. But this is a very, very big story. And it's a story about, first of all, 44. He's going to come back and play at 44. Man, that's amazing. I think it's amazing when you think about the fact that, you ever see the show The Golden Girls? Right? Dorothy and Rose and Blanche and Sophia. Picture it. Sicily, 1908. Like those women were in their 50s. Their 50s, they looked like they were 106. And now I got 44-year-olds coming back. Health and science has gotten better, kids. Really and truly. It's an amazing, amazing story. And you have to believe that Phillip Rivers is going to play this Sunday. Wait, who are we playing this Sunday, Producer Landon? Oh, we're in Seattle, who are 10-3, playing the Seahawks. That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. Now, if you also know anything about Phillip Rivers, and this is what's going to make the game so amazing if he plays, Phillip Rivers is a trash talker. Phillip Rivers, I don't think he curses, right? I don't think he does that. He's got a mouth on him. He is talking smack everywhere all the time. So, I mean, it's going to be a pleasure to watch just to see what happens. But I don't think they're going to go into this game with only two quarterbacks. I think we're still going to see something else. Crazy. What do you do when you run a multi-billion-dollar empire like the NFL? And the entire sport is dependent on having 64 players. A quarterback, there are 32 teams in the NFL, and a backup quarterback. Nothing else seems to matter. You must have these things, and it turns out for all the people who go through football on the college level and everywhere else, there aren't 64 of them. You're lucky if you have 32 of them. That's how difficult the job is. That's how impossible it is. That's how many inputs are coming in and you have to figure out. Now, we can argue from our conversation yesterday that the NFL has some other problems. And I'm telling you, this gambling thing has taken on a life of its own. This stuff from Portnoy yesterday, and I shared this story yesterday, and I did not hear David Portnoy threaten the life of a Seattle Seahawks coach, Pete Carroll. Because if I had, I would have been like, that's beyond the pale. He threatened to hit him, and I said, we don't do that. No violence, nothing, stop it. But holy cow, I did not hear him do that. And I feel bad if I missed it, because that's just wrong. You can't miss that stuff. If someone's threatening to hurt somebody else, nope, zero, none of that. And David Portnoy has to take the hits for that. But this idea about the gambling and the amount of gambling and how games look weird and how things are, ended in that that Denver Broncos, Las Vegas Raiders game, and people aren't scoring when they could easily score, and the clock is being stopped and allowing for scoring. It's very, very, very weird. And people are full on conspiracy at this stage of the game about it. Full on in the conspiracy. about what's happening in the NFL. And I just want to be clear, I don't think it's just the NFL. I think that this gambling thing is happening everywhere. My commentary yesterday was, if Pete Rose played today, he would never have been banned from baseball. I know he bet on his own team. That's not the point. This is all just now matter of fact. But I think it's starting to have a real negative effect on the game. It is. It's having a real negative effect on the game and how people perceive it. Now, I haven't seen it do anything yet to the viewership. I mean, there's always some conversation, always some kind of talk about how people are going to ban this or they're going to boycott this or boycott that or boycott the other, and it doesn't really happen. It doesn't really happen. But I'm thinking that this gambling thing might actually have an effect. As for Phillip Rivers, that's just crazy. Crazy that he got signed, man. Welcome back to Indianapolis. It's good to have you. Go win, man. Go win. This team is 8-5. It's not in front of the AFC South now. That's the Jacksonville Jaguars. But you're going to see them at the end of the season. Go win, kitten. Go do the thing. You are playing on borrowed time. You have no rules on you, no expectations on you. And you happen to have a team that, just manage the ball and you'll be all right. Crazy. The NFL has such a dearth of quarterbacks. You needed a 44-year-old. I'm telling you, if anybody else goes down in the league, Vinny Testaverde's getting a call. Crazy what is happening here. And if I'm the NFL, I am truly concerned. Truly concerned. Because this is not good. This is a serious issue. Billions and billions of dollars are transpiring because of this league. 3 quarterbacks go down. Changes a lot. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz today. Oh, my garbage can fell. I was like, what in the heck just happened? And that's what happened. Yep. Well, I mean, it's happening, right? It's a cultural story. It's crazy. So, by the way, I did think of the Tom Brady thing. Right? But Tom Brady owns a piece of the Raiders, and I want to say for the record, Tom Brady should not be allowed in the broadcast booth. Oh no, it's not because he's good or bad. That wasn't it. You can't own a team and then be commenting on other teams. It doesn't work. It just smacks of silly. I have nothing against Tom at all in any way. It's so obvious that this doesn't work. It doesn't connect. Hold on a second. Sorry, guys. I was just catching up on some things really quick. All right, I do. Do I have time? Oh, I do. Okay. I'll do the story of Ketanji Brown Jackson right now. Easy enough. Beth. I sighed twice. That comment made me sigh 2 times. I'm going to call that the Taylor Swift effect right there. All right. Let's see. Let me get some. Sorry, there's a bunch coming at me. There we go. Good. That, by the way, that's that has to be said. That's a sign of the times right there. Troll giggle. The NFL is not a Chippendale show. That's true. So the Supreme Court met yesterday in a case about what authority does the president have? Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Find everything over at TonyKatz.com. Appreciate you heading over there, checking everything out. And it's a question of whether or not the president can fire people who run agencies. What we have allowed to happen with agencies is basically creating a fourth branch of government where these agencies are created, they get these budgets, they are unaccountable, and there's deference to their decision. They can come up with a rule and the rule has the full effect of law, but these people were never voted in. And they exist regardless of who's been elected. It's a real problem. And there had been for a long time the concept of something, a Supreme Court case called Chevron, and it was known as Chevron deference. And it's the idea that if an agency made a decision that the duly elected representatives should yield to that position, and the courts really should yield to that position because they're the experts. The legislative branch could still create laws, and then the agency would have to follow the law, but the agency can make a lot of decisions outside of laws created, and everyone should defer to that, and the court should defer to that. That is terrible. And that was overturned, and I am overjoyed, and members of Congress are very upset about this because, well, it means they'll have more work to do because it's up to them to decide. Yes, correct, accurate, our duly elected representatives. We have too many agencies as it is. Well, what happens in a situation where the president, now elected, wants to fire some people who run the agencies because he wants the agencies to do something different? The argument is, well, you can't do that. What do you mean it can't do that? This brings us to the case of Rebecca Slaughter, FTC, Federal Trade Commission commissioner, who was fired by Trump. And her argument is, whoa. You don't get to fire me. I'm part of an agency. You don't have that power. At that moment, everyone goes, whoa. The president doesn't have the power to fire? I can remember this conversation going back to George W. Bush and the Attorney General at the time, Alberto Gonzales, where they fired a bunch of lawyers in the AG's office. And what they were told is, you can't fire those people. It sounded very much like, hey, Mongo, you can't park that horse over there. And then, bam! The president can fire anybody the president chooses at any time. What a nutty thing to think otherwise. The DOJ is part of the executive branch. End of discussion. It's a very weird thing for people to say you can't fire these people. Somehow, if you work in the federal government, you have a job for life. You have a job for life. That's nuts. So now comes this conversation about whether or not the President of the United States, Donald Trump, can fire the heads of independent agencies. Now, there's a whole feeling that maybe you can and maybe you can't. And there's a precedent that's referred to as Humphrey's executor. I am not a Supreme Court expert, but I'm trying to do some studying. And what it does is that it would limit the power of the president to fire members of independent commissions. However, this decision, this precedent, has been slowly chipped away at, bit by bit and piece by piece over the years, over the decades. So it has people like the Chief Justice John Roberts saying that Humphrey's executor is really nothing more than a, quote, dried husk. So maybe they're looking for a reason to get rid of it. Or maybe, as oftentimes the court does, what they're really looking for is a way to make subtle changes without making large-scale changes. Ketanji Brown Jackson, Supreme Court Justice, has been an embarrassment since she joined the court. I don't care that she knows more about the law than me. She doesn't know enough to be a Supreme Court justice. She acts on emotion, not data. She is embarrassing. This was her yesterday in the discussion of this case.
Some issues, some matters, some areas should be handled in this way by nonpartisan experts. That Congress is saying that expertise matters with respect to aspects of the economy and transportation and the various independent agencies that we have. So having a president come in and fire all the scientists and the doctors and the economists and the PhDs and replacing them with loyalists and people who don't know anything is actually not in the best interest of the citizens of the United States.
Is this your legal opinion, or is this just your I'm sitting in my living room screaming at CNN opinion? Because it sounds like the latter. Those who were fired, for example, if he had actually fired Anthony Fauci, wouldn't that have been the right thing to do? Because Anthony Fauci, for all his so-called bona fides, got everything on COVID wrong and lied to America. You don't need a mask. Oh, wait, you need a mask. Oh, wait, I'll go to a Washington Nationals game and not wear a mask. And what is this argument that somehow we should defer to people who others have decided have an expertise, but were never elected? Isn't that exactly what happened when you saw governors say, well, our health commissioner says you can't open your business, so you can't open your business during COVID? You can't go to church? We elect leaders to be leaders at all times, take in the data points, and then make decisions. I didn't elect some doctor who sits on some board to decide whether or not my business can be open. But this is the argument being made by a Supreme Court justice, that some expert should have the power and not the elected president of the United States.
These issues should not be in presidential control. So can you speak to me about the danger of allowing in these various areas the president to actually control the transportation board and potentially the Federal Reserve? And
if I never served in the military and I am elected president of the United States, to which I would be awesome, do I get to be the commander in chief? I never served. Barack Obama never served. I don't even think that guy ever played with a G.I. Joe. Did he get to be commander in chief? What an argument. A nonsensical argument Ketanji Brown Jackson is making. And then, as she does in almost every time she opens her mouth, she'll tell you how she doesn't understand.
All these other independent agencies. In these particular areas, we would like to have independence. We don't want the president controlling. I guess what I don't understand from your overarching argument is why that determination of Congress, which makes perfect sense given its duty to protect the people of the United States, why that is subjugated to a concern about the president not being able to control everything. I mean, I appreciate there's a conflict between the two.
No, there's a conflict between your hate for Donald Trump and rational thought, Justice Brown Jackson. If the president was elected and said, here's what we're going to do, and there's an agency that he can't replace leadership to get what he wants done, you think that's okay? That's not a check and balance. That is the people being usurped and not being able to have the full effect of their vote. To not be able to make changes is, what I would argue, disenfranchisement. My vote doesn't count. Well, not in these areas that the court decided I shouldn't have a say. I'm the voter. I'm the citizen. I get a say in all of it. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, guys. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. So I have got the Indiana Senate. And they're going to begin their session. They're going to discuss redistricting. I don't know if there's anything to share right there. I'll see if there is. I've got my 3 more things that I need to get to. And the list is huge. Huge. A lot going on. A lot happening. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Things have been really building nicely over there. We're starting to find a little bit of rhythm. And we would like that to keep happening. So I appreciate you guys. If you head over there and check it out, become a part of it, subscribe. Greatly, greatly appreciate that. Oh, good. Getting there. Everything's going dreamy, kids. Dreamy, I say. You know what I didn't do? I apologize. I didn't put the comments up. There you go. How's that? How's that right there? We're coming back? Hot diggity. So I've got three more things for you. Tony Katz today. Great to be here. Great to be with you. Here is one of those things. This is a story over at NBC News. This is the headline. ICE has arrested nearly 75,000 people with no criminal records, data shows. That's a very interesting headline. Why is it interesting? Because it doesn't say anything. It doesn't say anything at all. You've arrested 75,000 people with no criminal records. Were those 75,000 people in the country illegally because they're about to have a criminal record? But that's not the story. That's the headline. ICE has arrested nearly 75,000 people with no criminal records, data shows. The first paragraph of the story, I'm going to read it to you right here. More than a third of the roughly 220,000 people arrested by ICE officers in the first 9 months of the Trump administration had no criminal histories, according to new data. Now listen to me. You just told me that 220,000 people were arrested. A third of them had no criminal histories. So you're telling me that ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, has arrested 145,000 people who are in the country illegally who do have criminal records? Good work. Good work, everybody. Well done. I am pleased to hear this. Why this story matters. The headline's a lie. Well, the headline's not a lie, but you can clearly see how the headline is meant to manipulate low information voters who don't go about even reading the first paragraph of a story and don't dig into a story. All they'll hear is, Trump, he arrested 75,000 people who did nothing wrong. That's exactly the way they'll say it. That isn't the story, because we still don't know of the 75,000, whether or not they were in the country legally or not. And 75,000 out of 220,000, which means 145,000 people had criminal records. That would signal to me that Trump is doing an absolutely bang-up job. Incredible job. That's number one, right? That's the first story that's out there. Let me bring you story number two, which is going to make you nuts. Jimmy Kimmel got a contract extension. Not a joke. To quote Joe Biden. No joke. Through 2027, Jimmy Kimmel will continue to be a late night host. He lies about who assassinated Charlie Kirk. He gets a couple-day vacation and gets rewarded with a contract extension. If you want to know what Disney is all about, there you go. And I think there's an opportunity here for CBS. A massive opportunity. You already said that Colbert is leaving. You're getting out of late night. Should you? Or should you engage in not even a counter programming, but an honest programming? Something that's actually funny, something that's actually interesting. There's an opportunity here to change the whole game. But when it comes to ABC and when it comes to Disney, this is who they are. We don't have to question it anymore. We don't have to question whether or not their ideology drives them. My argument has always been that when you take a look at the late night shows, what the late night shows are there for is it's a signal to their fellow travelers that, hey, no matter what we had to do with the news department, this is how we really feel. This is how we really feel. You know, we're going to counter our own news programming, which may have to say, hey, Trump stopped border crossings, or Trump actually got a peace deal, or Trump got lower prescription drug prices on, for example, people are trying to lose weight or any other thing. And we're going to have to counter that good news in our own way. So we'll do it with the late night programming, which is a counter to our own news programming. So all our friends will still invite us to the Christmas parties. I'm sorry, the holiday event spectacular parties. We don't say Christmas anymore. I've always thought that was the purpose and the plan and the philosophy. I didn't know that they would admit it. And then there is the most clear and obvious story that has ever existed. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. outranks Trump and Biden in a new Harvard-Harris poll. The Health and Human Services Secretary, RFK, has got stronger ratings. He's 43 favorable, 40 unfavorable. It puts him ahead of J.D. Vance. No duh. We were here. We did it on this show. You guys heard it first. Republicans should be running on MAHA in the midterms. They should be running on safer kids, on healthier kids, on being more honest about vaccines. And while, yes, I still think you should take vaccines, it's okay to question what's going on. And we should be looking at this and looking at that. And we should be getting these kinds of food dyes out and these kinds of additives out. This is the good stuff. 10,000%. There is no question that he is, aside from Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary, he's the winner right now in the first 10 months of this administration. I would argue that the success and the popularity is RFK, Sean Duffy, Marco Rubio, Besant, the rest, Pam Bondi. I can't go much lower. Did Trump put out a Truth Social that was like, hey, Pam, honestly, what exactly do you do around here? Why don't we have this done? Why aren't we getting these justices approved? Why aren't we getting this done? Why don't we have these lawyers in place? Why are we losing this? Why are we losing that? Seriously, Pam Bondi. It's disappointing, but it's true. They're not all winners, and Pam Bondi is a letdown. She's a letdown. Better than Matt Gaetz. I still go with that. I have to believe it. But an absolute letdown. And then there's Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis, who has designated the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, as foreign terrorist organizations. Texas did this. Governor Greg Abbott did this. And now Florida is doing this. Good. Absolutely wonderful. Because CARE, the Council of American Islamic Relations, has long been accused, and I would say in my own viewing of them, as a front, as a cover group for Islamic terrorism, for a series of issues, as opposed to an honesty about what we're dealing with. But then again, we can get into the larger scale conversation of Islam needing a reformation, and that hasn't come yet. Muslim Brotherhood, yes, there is no question. You see them in multiple places around the globe as exactly what they are. Designating them as a terrorist organization, I would argue, is correct. We have a problem regarding Islamists and those who want to protect Islamists. And we can't have that problem if we want to be a society that survives and thrives. Can't have the problem. We should be honest. If you want to tell me about how white supremacists are a danger here, there, and everywhere, you can. And I'm going to point you to all of the arrests that are made where somebody who is clearly Hispanic is referred to as white, and all these other places where they're referred to as white. And I have a question about the data as opposed to an honesty about who's actually committing crimes. White people commit crimes, by the way. Duh. I mean, that's just obvious. I mean, Joe Biden was right there not running the country. Joe Biden let 13 service members die at Abbey Gate and left terrorists our hardware. I can see it with my own eyes. Ted Kennedy killed a woman. So white, Kennedy white, which is like the whitest of whites. Yeah, white people commit crimes. All sorts of people commit crimes. To refuse to recognize them, to try and say, well, if you notice them, that's bigotry. No. That's how you get the fraud of billions of dollars in Minneapolis by Somalian refugees and nationals, etc. We should acknowledge these things. Islamists are a problem. And those who support and defend Islamists, equal problem. This brings us to a story over the Daily Wire. Now, what makes it interesting, this story, is that there is right now a very large-scale conversation going on regarding Paramount, Warner, and Netflix, and really hostile takeovers. There's a story that Larry Ellison, who owns Oracle, remember, it's his son who's got Skydance, that bought Paramount. Right? So there's a lot of changes going on. They want to make a hostile takeover bid for CNN. And hearing hostile takeover, Brian Stelter immediately fell to the floor and wet himself, saying, please don't hurt me. The story here, the story from the Daily Wire, is that 41% of Netflix kids shows include LGBT themes. Yeah, that's about 41% too many. What is this? What this is indoctrination. And there are parents out there putting their kids in front of the TV. Enjoy your screen time. I don't have time for parenting. I have to doom scroll on Facebook. I have to complain about my neighbor on next door. I'm very busy. There's, of course, day drinking. And this is what your kids are absorbing. This is what your kids are seeing. It's a crazy, crazy story. It comes from Concerned Women of America, this report. 41% in both the TVG and the TVY7 youth categories. 1/3 of all Netflix shows rated for children contain LGBTQ characters, themes, or messaging. I think it's the themes or the messaging that create the biggest issues. And so we're even more clear, if it was LG and B, we'd have less of an issue. It's the T. The LB and G needs to drop the T. The T is not anything more than a political movement. And that's what LGBT has become, and the flags and everything else. This is not what you fought for at Stonewall. You got to drop the T. We all need to. And recognize it as mental illness and help people, not try and push more people to the mental illness. I'm Tony Katz.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Guys, welcome back.
The
Indiana State Senate is in session. They're talking about redistricting. I'm gonna bring it to you if that's okay.
We should help our country and support this redistricting plan. It won't take much time. The first thing I want to tell you about is the oath that we take. I never memorized the words. I knew what I was going to say because they're told to us as we stand up here and raise our right hand to do it. But after we give our name, our first responsibility is the Constitution of the United States of America. before the Constitution of the state of Indiana. I think that's telling that whoever devised the oath put our country before the state. That means something to me. I know our duty. I know what we're supposed to do. What's good for our country is good for us here. The second thing I'd like to mention to you, and I pass out so I don't have to talk about it for a while, that you can review this in your leisure. Although the count of the census was taken in 2020, it didn't start until April, and it wasn't finished until after President Trump left office. So he didn't do the count. His administration didn't do the count. They didn't look at the numbers or any of that stuff. They didn't see if there was illegal aliens in the count or they weren't in it. That was the other administration that did that. And when you look at this, take, for example, look at the overcounts that happened. Except for 2 instances, it was all blue states. Now, which blue states would have had an overcount? Well, first one is Hawaii. It's almost 7% overcount. The next one is Delaware at 5.45, Rhode Island 5. That's a lot. You know what's something unique about this overcount, though? Every one of those, and I think I mentioned that there's a couple Republicans that had states that had overcount as well, but not as significant as these or the others. But each one of those states that I just mentioned, they don't have one Republican congressman from their state, although it's a 45-55 margin. Not one. I don't begrudge them that. It's a political issue. But I want to tell you, this overcount, what it accomplished was they changed the course of our Congress by 12 seats. 12 seats margin.
It's them having the issue.
Now,
with the
that is unheard
Yes.
of, that a government agency can change the margin of our United States Congress by overcounting and undercounting our states. Red states were significantly undercounted. A margin of 12 that they shouldn't have. 6 Democrats, you'll see it in the chart. 6 Democrats became congressmen, and we lost 6 Republican seats that we could have had. And basically, out of 2 states. I think Montana would have gained 1, maybe it's 7. But think about that for a second. The House of Representatives is a margin is 220 to 220 to 205, 215, a margin of 5. And now we found out if we had done it on the right count, we'd have had 12 more seats, which would have given us 232 to approximately 203. This is not counting the count of illegal aliens that were found basically in the sanctuary states that they counted in the census that gave them even more congressional seats. California, Illinois, New York. Sanctuary communities, they got them counted, and they're part of the population count. President Trump, I understand, is going to make sure that that doesn't happen again in the next census. He won't.
This is an interesting argument that he's making. And it's one that I have made here in Indiana, that the legislature does have a responsibility to the country. So we'll get back to this as we get back to the show. Congratulations, Chris, on the anniversary. The God of Fire Carlito. So I don't know what year it is. I love the Carlito. Now, I'm not a fan of the Series B, as many people are. It's not my cigar. I find it bitter. I adore the Carlito. I buy it by the box, and it's not a cheap cigar. I think it is terrific. I love the Carlito, the 2020, the 2019. Great stick. Can't go wrong. Happy anniversary. Let's get back to the show.
It's okay. I feel good in my state of Indiana. The country can go down, but I say we shouldn't allow it. We have a role to play. If we've had an agency that's cheated us, then we can fight back by doing something that's fair and right. And that is to redistrict and give us 9 seats, at least get us 2 back, a margin of 4 out of that 12.
That is State Senator Michael Young of Indiana. as they are now discussing redistricting. It got through committee yesterday, 6-3. It turned out I was accurate about who was going to do what, and that if one senator went, others were going to follow. So they're now having the discussion. It's actually on C-SPAN as we speak. Tony Katz today. They're going to vote, I believe, on Thursday about redistricting, which would take the state of Indiana, which has 7 Republican seats, 2 Democrat seats right now, and would redistrict to be 9-0. Really Republican advantage. There is an issue with the map that they put out. Oh, I accept this. I've discussed this. There is a real issue with the map. But the question has been, is this a state that's going to redistrict? And there's been a lot of outside influence trying to go after members of the state Senate, and that influence has been for naught. You could scream and yell on social media as an influencer all you want. You don't mean anything here. An argument is what matters here. And you haven't had influence. I do not know if there will be 26 votes for redistricting when this happens. That's what you're going to need. I do not know if it's going to happen. By the way, you have 40 Republicans. I think it's 50 total. I don't know if you're going to have the 26 votes or not. They just adjourned this. Did they just adjourn the session? Well, that didn't last very long now, did it? They just really do that while we were standing here? Did they just adjourn the session as soon as it really started? Huh. Well, that's something. We'll see what they do. It's going to be a big story. Actually, no, I think that vote takes place on Thursday. I don't think it takes place tomorrow. We'll find out. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz today. Because they just said adjourned. I'm like, what just happened right there? Or was that from yesterday? No, that was from today. That was totally from today. I'm following it on C-SPAN. Wow, that was really weird. That was very, very, very strange. What just took place there? Huh. Huh. By the way, Philip Rivers, holy cow, with the post on social media this morning, quote, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Oh my. Philip Rivers is coming back. Yeah, and he never left. He's going to throw 4 touchdowns against Seattle. It's going to be nuts. Oh my God. If I am a teammate, if I am a Colt right now, I look at that, I'm like, hot damn, I'm hitting the gym. If you are on the Colts and you're not hyped about this post, you're not hyped about anything. That's crazy. Crazy. No, they're not going to bring in Fernando Mendoza. He's right. He's got to win the Heisman first, and then he's got to play in a national championship. No one would forgive him. Also, that's not happening. Guys, I appreciate you. We've got more show coming over at WIBC.com. You want to go check that out right there. And then join us, tickets.TonyKatz.com. Trump 1 year later, Red Tie Gala, the bourbon, the food, the live music, the laughs. Me, I'm going to be very entertaining. Very entertaining. A stage show like nothing else. A great night. Take a date, take a spouse, bring yourself, meet good people. Gonna be amazing. Tickets.TonyKatz.com. Trump, a Red Tie Gala 1 year later. Tickets.TonyKatz.com. Tickets.TonyKatz.com. I appreciate you. I am back. I'm back tomorrow. Should be a good time. I'll see you then. Take care.